All right, pull up a chair, grab a cold drink because you are not going to believe the story I'm about to tell you. The day I learned how far some people will go to control a neighborhood, I was just a guy in a cowboy hat firing up Bertha, my brand new offset smoker, on a picture perfect Saturday afternoon, living out the dream I'd saved up for since I got out of the army. Sun on my back, soul music bumping yards stretching out behind me like something from a country song. I felt like I finally made it. That's when it happened. When my American dream took a hard left turn into suburban warfare. I just poured the first coals, Bertha barely even puffing, when I heard a voice behind me like gravel and old money had a baby and raised it on entitlement. Excuse me, what do you think you're doing with that contraption? This is not the ghetto. We don't allow that kind of thing here. I turned slow as molasses, and there she was, every Karen meme brought to life. Blonde helmet hair, beige suit that probably cost more than my grill, and a clipboard clenched so tight it looked like she was about to hand out commandments on stone tablets. She stared at my smoker like I just dumped a car engine on her hydrangeas. "Ma'am, I'm just seasoning my new smoker, getting it ready for some ribs," I said, smiling the kind of smile that says, "God bless your little heart." She didn't budge, wrinkled her nose like the air itself offended her, and launched into the bylaws. No open flames, no smoke, no odors that might upset property values, or as she put it, you people always bring your habits wherever you go. Now, it wasn't my first rodeo with coded nonsense. You people, I asked, steady as ever. People who like good food. She didn't blink. You know exactly what I mean. I'm the president of the Homeowners Association, and I'm telling you to put that thing out right now. It's against the rules. She punctuated every word with that clipboard. See, that's when I got the idea right there on my patio with the beige baroness fuming. She says block party like it's a crime. Well, all right then, ma'am, I grinned. That's a fantastic idea. Thank you for the suggestion. Her jaw dropped and something clicked in me. I wasn't just going to season Bertha. I was about to throw the wildest, boldest, most unapologetic backyard barbecue Whispering Pines had ever seen. Let me back up a sec, give you some context on how I even got tangled up with a woman who polices lawn flamingos for sport. After 10 years in the Army and grinding 80-hour weeks to build my logistics company from the ground up, I finally bought the perfect house, a solid 70s ranch on the edge of a fancy subdivision. Best part, it was not in the HOA. I double-checked with my lawyer, triple-checked the records. My place was grandfathered in a lone island of freedom surrounded by a sea of beige tyranny. The first thing I bought wasn't a couch, it was Bertha, 6 feet of cast iron and hope. So when the Baroness stomped onto my yard talking about bylaws, I just grinned. She had no idea her imaginary rules stopped cold at my property line. I watched her walk away that day muttering about fines and liens, and I let the smoke billow up thick and proud like my own Declaration of Independence. I knew she'd be back. Folks like her always come back. Sure enough, a few days later, I got a letter so official looking it practically glowed. Cream envelope, gold logo, Times New Roman font full of legal threats. Dear resident didn't even use my name. Violations, fines, even threats of a property lien. She might as well have been the mayor of make-believe. I laughed. Pinned the letter to my kitchen corkboard next to a photo of my dad with his old drum smoker. It wasn't a threat, it was a challenge. That night I started texting my people, family, army buddies, cousins, the whole crew. Operation Smoke 'em Out. How do you feel about a free BBQ? Replies flew in. You need my mac and cheese. Heard about that HOA witch. Let's do it. Before I knew it, my guest list was pushing 50. My cousin, the DJ, signed on. My aunt started prepping desserts. Even my new neighbor Tom, a state grad I met while walking the block, signed on. Turns out he'd gotten his own warning letter about a pink flamingo. The legend of the block party was born. Of course, Mildred, yeah, that's her real name, wasn't about to just let it happen. More letters arrived, each one angrier, threatening legal action for disruptive gatherings, unpleasant smoke odors, and unapproved parking. I started collecting them on my corkboard like Boy Scout badges. She took to the community Facebook group, drumming up support. Some backed her up, but more than a few pushed back, folks tired of being policed over lawn gnomes and wind chimes. Saturday came bright and clear with the sky the color of a new denim jacket. By dawn, Bertha was rolling. Brisket pork shoulders chicken marinated in my secret sauce. The yard smelled like heaven's own kitchen. Family rolled in with trays of mac and cheese. Army buddies set up chairs and coolers. Tom brought his daughter and the outlawed flamingo. By noon, it was a feast. Kids in the pool, grown folks, laughing, music in the air, every neighbor within sniffing distance peeking out their windows. And then the beige baroness arrived, clipboard in hand, standing just where my grass ended and her kingdom began. She stood and glared, scribbling notes like a court reporter. I raised my beer to her, toasted her with a grin, and went back to the smoker. She retreated, plotting, I figured. Right on cue, a security guard in a rent-a-cop van parked across the street, arms crossed, scowl on display. My buddy Marcus, who's built like a linebacker, just smiled and waved. I grabbed the mic. Let's all welcome our new fan. And remember, don't block the sidewalk. Let's give them nothing to complain about. The crowd laughed. Tension gone. But Mildred wasn't done. She started going door to door, desperate for backup, but most folks either ignored her or, like the college kids next door, were already at my party eating ribs. Still, she managed to scare up a noise complaint from the elderly couple next door. She was building a case, hoping to bury me in paperwork and accusations. Meanwhile, I just wrapped the brisket, checked the ribs, and kept the faith. Patience is the secret to good barbecue and beating bullies. Then the climax, flashing lights, 2 police cruisers. The music cut. The crowd went silent. Every black family in that yard sharing a look we all know too well. Mildred met the cops on the sidewalk, painting me as the villain in her imaginary crime drama. The officers came over polite but skeptical. Noise illegal, gathering, excessive smoke. I handed them my closing docs plat map, proof that I wasn't and had never been a member of her HOA. They read. They nodded. They walked back out. Ma'am, the lead cop said this property isn't under your HOA's jurisdiction. You have no authority here. The look on her face, I wish I could bottle it. She shrieked, threatened to call the mayor, the governor, the universe. The cops just shrugged, told her to go home, and drove off. Marcus started a slow clap. The whole party joined in. Mildred scurried home, her beige pantsuit blending into the background. That should have been the end, right? Nope. Turns out my little act of rebellion started a chain reaction. Neighbors started talking, sharing their own stories. Fines, intimidation, wasted money. Tom and Sarah, a quiet woman on the HOA board, showed up at my door armed with the original charter. Mildred's cronies weren't even eligible to vote delinquent on dues for months. The emergency meeting she called to declare my house a public nuisance imploded in her face. Sarah called her out. The community saw the truth, and Mildred's empire of fear collapsed in one glorious public humiliation. But wait, there's more. My lawyer dug deeper, found out 5 other families in a nearby cul-de-sac had been bullied, fined, and even had liens placed on their homes. None of them were ever legally in the HOA. Fraud, plain and simple. We organized, gathered our evidence, and at the annual meeting we laid it all out. The room was packed. Neighbors heard decades' worth of Mildred's abuses. We served her with a legal demand for over $150,000 in refunds and damages. The board voted to remove her on the spot. She walked out, never looked back. The neighborhood breathed a collective sigh of relief. Things changed. People planted gardens. Kids' toys came out. Doors got painted bright colors. The Facebook group became a place for potlucks, not snitching. Every Sunday I fired up Bertha, but now my backyard was the place to be. The smell of smoke wasn't a nuisance anymore, it was the smell of freedom. A few months later, just when I thought my story couldn't get crazier, I got a letter from a fancy law firm. Turns out the original developer of Whispering Pines, an old man named Alistair Finch, had watched everything go down. He was one of the 5 families Mildred had bullied. In his will, he left me his house and a fortune, $4.7 million, because, as he put it in his letter, I reminded him of the community he'd dreamed this place would become. So what did I do? I turned Alistair's house into a community center. Pool, playground, picnic area, free for everyone. Now, every Sunday I still grill. Sometimes the real party's down at the community center, but that's the point. We built something better together. You want to talk about justice, about what's right or wrong. Here's what I learned: sometimes the most revolutionary thing you can do is just live your truth, stand your ground, and invite everyone to the table, barbecue, beer, and all. Mildred wanted me out. Instead, I changed the whole neighborhood. One pitmaster, one smoker, a whole lot of patience. So let me ask you, what would you have done? Ever faced down a bully who thought they owned the block? Drop a comment, share your story, and tell me, what does justice look like in your neighborhood? And if you ever find yourself up against a beige baroness, remember, stand tall, play the long game, and never ever let anyone tell you how to live in your own home.